I'm going to try to not talk too fast today, but it's pretty content rich. That's sort of my flow. And I want to make sure I set expectations and I'm not about showing you how to be like an overnight, real estate investor, or how to work too hard. The business is called Design Your Reality for a reason. I'm about lifestyle. I worked in corporate for 25 years in telecom, and you can all check out my LinkedIn profile. I'm a real person from Waterloo, Ontario. And I think I was just very fortunate that along the way I bought rental properties. So in my semi or micro retirement, I'm now trying to help normal people buy simple, lovely real estate without it being overcomplicated. And today's topic, I guess my first slide, that's actually me. I got to drive my friend's sailboat this year in Croatia, which was super cool. And I travel a bunch and I have rental properties, and I literally haven't taken a tenant call in 20 years. So I think that's always what I feel is where I'm doing things differently than a lot of, other coaches out there or real estate investment kind of strategy people out there. And I've also taken a lot of those programs myself. So I'm not afraid to talk about any investment strategies. And I know my topic through, the Facebook and the Instagram, how you got here is talking about TFSA versus rental property. But part of my reasoning on doing that is one, I believe that you have to have some money to do real estate investing. I wouldn't say that if you only have money in your TFSA that you should go out and diversify and buy likely real estate tomorrow. So I'm about trying to create clarity, not complexity. And I want you to see that there is a way to own rental properties if you can afford it, and it's the right thing to do. And it's a calm, way to do it through professional management and being very hands off so you can have lifestyle. So that hopefully will grab your interest today. I am going to go more deeply into kind of comparing, I guess, real estate versus investments. But I do need to say I'm not a financial planner. I'm truly a business person and an investor myself. And I do have all of the different, I think I invest in everything. So I'm not limited to one conversation, but the core of my business is helping people turnkey their first rental property with ease. And I am a small business. I only take on about 30 clients a year. So even though I'm doing the Facebook ads and all of that, I really, when we have our clarity calls and we have a conversation, I'm trying to help people get on the right path, but then actual execution, it's a fairly limited number of people that I can help each year. So we're in January and we get to kick off this year with some new faces as I finish up my clients from last year. So it's wonderful. And I feel like usually in Canada, people have saving money. Like we understand this concept of we need to save money for retirement, right? I think we've all been told from, our early days in working that we should save for our retirements. Unless we have pensions or inheritance or we come from the right family or something, it's kind of on our shoulders to save for retirement. So hopefully most people that I talk to, are saving money in some form or fashion. And clients that I'm able to help have saved some money or they've gotten some inheritance or, they want to just diversify and buy some real estate. So today I'm going to really talk about that. And like I said, we save in our TFSAs, which are great. I love my TFSA. My RSPs, they were a great way to reduce my tax bill while I was working in corporate. So I love my RSPs. And I like to kind of think of TFSAs and RSPs and, pensions. If people would think about it the same way as real estate, then we would stop these weird conversations around it not being a long-term investment. So I don't know. Hopefully today I can sort of explain the math a little bit better and show you why I guess I believe in real estate so much. But I do want to say that I also have RSPs, TFSAs. I don't have a pension, but I've got the other savings tools as well. So savings alone doesn't automatically create retirement income. You need to do something with it. So today specifically, I do try to say in my ads, if you're busy and you have a job and you've got some money to invest and you don't want to do all the work yourself because usually that's what busy people are afraid of doing real estate because they think, oh my gosh, it's going to be another job, and you don't want that. And you just want good guidance, which is kind of where I come in over trying to guess and trying to figure out this whole real estate world on your own. So it's not for you if you want to be a house flipper, you want to manage tenants, like you want to be a landlord, or if you're looking for a get rich quick kind of situation. That is not the reality of real estate, in my opinion. So, and I'm also not, yeah, anyways, we'll get more into it. I'm going to show you some real numbers and stuff. So, what I'm going to be showing you is, how I think about retirement income. I use the word retirement kind of loosely, call it micro retirement, call it, whatever point in time that we don't have to do the full-time corporate job, I think is what we're all trying to achieve. Me, this is my, micro retirement, semi-retirement gig, helping 30 women or couples a year buy their first rental property. Um, but whatever it is, you need enough money so you can live the life you want to live. That's the whole point. That's what retirement is. So some investments do create income right away, some investments don't. And I want to show you a simpler path to owning rental properties without being a landlord. So that's usually the part I feel like most people get a bit caught up in. And as smaller investors, we almost feel guilty, and women especially, we feel guilty for not doing enough work. Like I was a COO, so I'm good at delegating, but I do find a lot of my female counterparts are not so good at it. We feel bad if we're not doing all the work. So I'm going to teach you how to not be a landlord, how to be a CEO of your rental property business. Just like we hire the right financial planners to manage our RSPs, our TFSAs, or we use the right tools, it's the same thing with real estate. I think we should all delegate. We should all learn how to manage our money without doing it all ourselves. We need to be good at our jobs or whatever our life is, but you don't need to be good at everything, right? You just need to be a good investor. So, what we're taught, is savings is the way to go. That's usually like the RSP concept or the TFSA concept. And savings and income is how I'm going to try to explain it today, are not necessarily the same thing. So savings is a strategy. We all have to save up enough money, or we have to build enough equity, right, from our homes to be able to invest to then create an income stream in our retirement. So most traditional savings plans stop at accumulation. So the question is, will you have built enough of a nest egg and enough of a tool, or a vehicle is what I'm going to refer to it today as, to create and generate yourself enough income to get you through the retirement years. And I'm not going to get into CPP and old age security today, but if we end up having a strategy session or you end up working with me, we make sure we go through all the bits and pieces of your money when it comes to your retirement plan. But we need the money to last, right? Until we're, 100 years old these days. My family all seems to live till they're 92. So very lucky on the genetics, but I got to make sure, the cash flow keeps coming and I don't run out of my RSPs or my TFSAs too early. Fortunately, I've got my rentals and I'm going to show you the math of that today. So at some point, you've got to turn it into cash flow, which is kind of totally what I'm referring to here. And this is where usually in the planning and the spreadsheeting that I do with my clients, it's the aha moment that usually comes through in the math because it's easy on paper and we tend to live in this world. Even I talk about 5-year plans, but reality is 20 years, 30 years is how we should be looking at things. So how are we going to make our retirement income predictable, right? Today we can look at our money, but like what's going to happen as best as we can with a crystal ball. So how much do we need and how long is it going to last? And I talk about building business plans for your life. I really am a business person. I look at everything like a business. And when I'm doing the mathing and the spreadsheet with my clients, we're really trying to figure out what's the lifestyle, what's the spending, what's the work back schedule, and how are we going to get there? And if a rental property is one of those mechanisms, then awesome. And the challenge is we just need that income flow plan. So I like this language because I like to be in flow, design your reality, travel, lifestyle is the core of what I'm trying to teach people to do. And we just need to make sure we have enough flow of money so we can actually retire. So you need money, okay? You need either money or you need equity in your home. I am not trying to teach people to put investments on credit cards. I'm not teaching people to over leverage. If you want to have those conversations, we can have a chat about it. But I think it's a danger zone. I think you got to save, you got to have capital. Most of my clients have extra money, right? They've done their TFSAs, they're doing their RSPs, and maybe they've gotten some inheritance or they've been divorced or they've got some money. And they're like, I've always wanted to buy rentals, but I just don't know how or who to talk to. And that's really where I'm coming in. So you do have to have some capital. That is the vehicle. Where do we invest? And in Canada, there's a handful of things we can do. We as an investor, and obviously the clear and easy ones are TFSAs, RSPs to reduce income and tax, or real estate. Those are kind of the three main chunks we have. Of course, people today are going to invest in some crypto. We're gonna do all the things, right? But whatever vehicle it is, it's all ultimately to create wealth, generational wealth, or to create income flow. So I'm focused on how do we create the nice flow of income and have diversified assets. So capital is the money you already have. The vehicle determines how we're going to make the money work. And not all vehicles create income flow the same way. So hopefully I'm trying to make this not too in the math, but I'm going to get in the weeds. So growth vehicle first. So designed to grow value over time. And this would be where we're talking about like growth. So our RSPs, right? We give the money, we invest the money, we don't touch it for, 20, 30, 40 years, and it does its thing in the stock market, depending on how that's invested. And obviously there's higher risk and lower risk and all the things that you're going to talk with your financial advisor, and that's going to do its thing over time. And any of you that are here today that are, over 50 years old, and have been doing our RSPs, you're going to believe my math more than maybe a 25-year-old or a 30-year-old that's on the call. And that's totally cool, right? So we'll actually, can I just check for a second? Can someone throw in the chat where you are from? I just want to make sure my chat is working. Good old technical stuff. But I feel Zoom is always doing these changes on me. And I just don't see anyone messaging, and usually I see that. Thank you very much, Carl. All right, thank you, everyone. I just want to make sure it's working. Okay, awesome. Oh, Cambridge, perfect. I'm from Waterloo, Ontario. We got Alberta. Love it. Okay, that's awesome. Thank you, everyone, for your help there. So growth vehicles are kind of those traditional, put the money in, slowly over time, it's going to grow. When we retire, that's the whole conversation, right? Then we start to take out the money. So I'm going to show you some good data on that. And we're focused really on what is the accumulation, right? What's the balance each year? What's it growing each year? And every year we're encouraged to put more money and invest more money into that vehicle. And then there's sort of this income first concept, which kind of gets lost in the real estate world because there's a big conversation that has like we expect it to create all this income day one. And I don't know that that's really the way we should look at real estate. I have a kind of different philosophy on it. I try to think of it the same way I'd invest in an RSP or TFSA, but I know long term my income producing real estate is going to actually, well, you're going to see the numbers. So it's focused, we tend to focus on cash flow and growth is secondary, but the reality is the two combined together turn this into a very income first vehicle. So most of my properties I did in 2024, 25, I guess we're 2026 now, 2025 did produce income day one, which was awesome. And that's because interest rates got back under control. But I've been doing this since 2019 and it's a long-term investment strategy. So I talk about rentals as an investment, just like we would invest in TFSA or just like we would invest in our RSPs. So now I want to talk about creating, I guess because of the two different structures and we don't know what returns are going to be in the stock markets, we can't totally predict what's going to happen in real estate, right? There's always uncertainty, lots of fear and uncertainty and doubt thrown out there on social media. But as we get older and we get more experience, we try to do the best we can to create the certainty that we want. So we've got more less uncertainty around retirement, and reliable income from the vehicles and not the account. So I love my rentals because they do create me this very predictable income. Because rents tend to stay pretty stable. And that's at the end of the day where most of our income is going to come from. So, two common vehicles, both are familiar. We both use them. Like I've talked about the RSPs, the TFSA. So, I'm going to focus on TFSA. And I love the TFSA. Absolutely. Growth, tax free. Everyone should max out their TFSAs without a doubt, right? Like that is ultimately what we want to be doing. I'm not telling people to take all their TFSA money and go and invest that all in real estate. It's a much bigger conversation. I just say the starting point, and for the example of this, it's a good math because you can use your TFSA money to invest. Like you can take it out and you could go buy a rental property. If you had 120,000 in your TFSA, you could take 50 grand and go and invest it. You could take some equity from your house and go and invest it. I think my key message is it doesn't need to be overwhelming to buy real estate. So we're going to talk about this. TFSA money can create income. I wanted to be really fair about this because it could create dividends right away, right? You can buy different stocks, or you could withdraw the money if you want to live off of it. But I think generally, if we think about retirement and investing, we're investing. We're putting money in to have it grow over time to ultimately create us that income stream we want when we retire. So, and then a rental property is designed to produce ongoing rental income. So, what's interesting is depending on the mortgage, depending on the rates, depending on all the bits of detail of the math, you can generate income right away from your rental property. You don't have to wait until you retire, which has been awesome in my life and it's awesome for my clients. But again, it's all about how we work those numbers. And I get really weedy into that with my clients because some clients are still making money. So we don't need to create more income to be taxed on. We want to defer it until we maybe aren't making as much money. So the whole idea of the rental though is it does start to create rental income kind of based on how you want to generate that income, and it's supported by the tenants, not market timing. So it's about the rent. Growth and equity build alongside cash flow, often used in an income producing asset. And that's what I feel like a lot of times we get caught up in. It has to be income right away, which we all want more money for sure. But I'm trying to show you that this is more, it's more similar to an RSP or a TFSA where you're saving the money to ultimately create you long-term income. So we're going to go through why you're here today is the $50,000 kind of example, right? And I would say this is the baseline. Like I'm going to show you an example of a client. We bought a house. I was 50,300 was the down payment. So there is still real estate. We just picked up another semi this week out east for 293,000. So the real estate is out there. I'm very particular about what we buy. I'm not buying crappy real estate, but if you have more money, I encourage you to talk to me and figure out kind of where you are at in your investment kind of world or what you'd like to think about. So now we're going to go into a little bit more of the details. Talked a little bit already about TFSA. So this is all about, how the account grows. TFSA goes in, depends what you're invested in, but it should grow hopefully, depending on what you've invested in. So I tend to, and we'll get into this math, but everyone can argue with me, but I'll talk about, an average of 5%. I think in the last, 5 years, people sometimes say to me, Tracy, I can make 18%, I can make 40%. And I mean, I've done really well also with some of my TFSA money, but over time, if you've been investing for 20 or 30 years, your average balanced portfolio is probably somewhere between 5 to 7%. So I treat my RSP, my TFSA predictions very conservatively, just like I predict my real estate very conservatively. I am not about kind of blowing smoke or trying to make some, like I said, I'm not into this get rich quick conversation. I'm into real numbers so that we're all like happy clients and actually having a beautiful life. So the TFSA is great, but it all depends on, what it's invested in. So if we think of it as just sit it, forget it, and let it grow, it's great. And then what happens in retirement? We start to take out the money, right? Now, the real estate, we used the money. So the idea is the income is more tied to the rent, not selling it. So I don't look at my real estate as something I'm going to sell to make a one-time income hit, which could be a strategy. That's not the strategy that I'm teaching people. I'm teaching people buy it, hold it, own it, give it to the kids. Like let's just own like create our wealth over time and own really, really nice real estate. So monthly rental income is designed into the structure, and rent, even in the worst case scenario, will go up a little bit each year. And really, whether it's 50 bucks here or there, that shouldn't make a big difference in your retirement plan. And income is supported by tenants. So if we buy good properties and we have good tenants, then we have good rental income. And I'm really specific in buying good real estate. So I'm not buying cheap real estate. This is why I talk to people about needing some money. We're not trying to buy the low end of the market. We're trying to buy the market that any of us would live in, right? Like most of the houses I look at, we would all live in them. They're like nice little houses. They're lovely. We create nice little rental properties. And then, of course, our mortgages are being paid down over time and the property value continues to go up. So there's this kind of, I mean, in one of my coaching programs that I took, they talk about three ways to win, and it's true. And I'm going to touch on it in a bit of a graphical slide in a few minutes, which will hopefully help paint a bit a better picture. So income typically shows up over time, and we want predictable income versus variability. So both are good. I would love everyone to have at least one rental property, but I'd also love everyone to max out their TFSAs, and I'd love also everyone to have their RSPs. Like that would be a beautiful, well-rounded retirement portfolio. It's just finding that balance between everything. So, what do the real numbers look like? And in a simple example of $50,000 TFSA, long-term diversified portfolio. So, like I said, like kind of a 5 to 7% growth, and it's tax-free. So I'm gonna make sure I try to do I've tried to do as apples to apples as I can. And of course, the income is optional and created by dividends or withdrawals. So I would say if you're using your TFSA, the intent of it is to have it accumulate so that when you retire, you start to withdraw, same as we would do with an RSP. And the account grows over time. The nice thing with a TFSA is it's flexible, self-directed. Like I said, I'm not a financial advisor, but TFSA is pretty simple savings tactic that the government's given us, which is awesome. Then we've got 50,000 towards a rental property. So the first concept is when we're putting money into a TFSA, if we have $50,000, it's 50,000, and then that's what we have to like that's what's growing the investment. We're not necessarily leveraging that money. So in a rental property, we're using our 50,000, but now we're going to get to leverage that money. So this is a huge concept where we're actually buying a $250,000 rental property, or if we have 80,000, we're buying a $350,000 rental property. If we have 100,000, we can buy a five. And I've got an example of a triplex today. So depending on your budget and where you're at, we get to leverage because the banks love to lend us money here in Canada, which is amazing. And it is a great long-term concept. And I do long-term rentals. So again, I don't like to do really any work. The only thing I do generally is work with my clients and travel. That's my lifestyle. If you follow me on my Instagram, you see that. I'm a real person and I have kind of figured out how to design my own reality and try to help you do the same. So, key is long-term rentals, great houses, great tenants, and professionally managed, which is huge. And I learned about this when I first bought my first two student rentals back in the day. And thankfully, early on in my investing career, learned about how to delegate all of the work, which truly I believe is my magic sauce and takes away all of my stress around owning rental properties. I'm very specific in the companies I hire. I know how to manage them, and we're very VIP with the teams that I've created. So the whole experience, you can read my testimonials, but I've figured some things out, ladies. So I don't do any of the rent collection. I don't do any of the leasing. I don't talk to my tenants. I really would have to almost dig and go and see who my tenants are right now, but I'm a fantastic investor. I don't worry about $50. I don't worry about $200. The long-term investment and ROI on my rental property portfolio has so far exceeded my TFSA and my RSPs. It almost makes me sad that I did all the RSPs, except for I was happy to save the tax. So, and I don't think it's changing. I think there's just a lot of fear around it, but I believe I have figured out how to mitigate the risk and reduce the fear. So, anyways, we can talk more about that. But what it means is my monthly income is designed into a structure. I love getting my automated notifications. It's now like paying all my, I mean, pretty much my lifestyle is paid by my rental properties, and I don't have to touch my RSPs. I don't know. It's like a good problem to have, I guess, in this life. Plus, I get to then do this and help other people for fun. So now we're going to talk about the two differences. I think I've beat that one up pretty good. So let's go into the numbers. I used to open up, and if you watch my masterclass on my website, I do open up the spreadsheets, but I thought I'm trying to make it a little easier and just go higher level on the numbers. But if you want me to open up a spreadsheet and run a different scenario, we can do that on a clarity call. But basically, here's the math. I've tried to summarize it cleanly. So $50,000 grows over time. And basically, I used 5%. So this is just straight math from a spreadsheet, right? 5 years, it would be worth 67,000 if you let it sit without making additional contributions, which would be the same concept as a rental property, trying to be apples to apples. 10 years, it would be 85,000, and in 20 years, it'd be worth 139,000. So just use that number. If it was a few more percentages, like 7 or 8%, okay, maybe the number goes to 150 or 160. That's fine. In my rental property, again, trying to be very generous. Most of my real estate over the long term, pretty confidently, is a 5% growth. But markets are really wacky right now. We're definitely in a downturn. Great time to buy rental properties. So, if we look at a short term, we'll say there's been even a flat or even a reduction. But so I've moved my numbers to be a 3% over a 20-year span of real estate increases. So if you see the spreadsheets over time, you'll see that a house that's made worth 250 today in 20 years, I mean, there's a pretty good chance it's going to grow by 3%. Again, we can argue that, but I feel confident and I don't even care about the value of my real estate. It only helps my spreadsheet and my net worth number because that's not really the root of the income. So it's this sort of concept this is why people pay like 10, 20 grand for real estate coaching because it can get a little complicated. I will agree with that. But high level, let's just look at my math. So I just did 3% growth, just equity. So not talking about the income, just talking about the growth of the house. So in 5 years, it'd be 111,000 growth. In 10 years, 181. And in 20 years, the math is just straight spreadsheet, 364,000. And then people say to me, but Tracy, there's capital gains. Okay. Well, if we were to sell it or if we were to die and have to pay taxes, the capital gains tax would be about 100 grand and we would then be left with 264,000. So even if in my pretty conservative numbers on a pretty small rental property, if we go bigger, the money only gets better, which is why investors love real estate, but you have to be able to afford it, which is really important. Um, but I've got like you can see the math. I'm up over 100 grand on two simple investments. So even if it wasn't that rosy, I would still, even if it was apples to apples, even say both were just the same value, my additional value is what I'm going to show you in the next slide. So this is where the difference kind of happens with, so hopefully that made sense. Hopefully I have hit with you. Um, so the 50,000 in TFSA, I'm going to get to my diagram. This is better. So it grows over time, right? Really trying to show this concept. And RSP works the same way, right? We put it in, it grows over time. But then what happens when we get to retirement? We start pulling out the money. You see it more clearly if you're doing an RSP plan. TFSA, because it's flexible. I don't know, people I think take it out before they should, but whatever, it doesn't matter. The point is you're saving it. When you start to withdraw it, and this is a good play in ChatGPT, it does a fantastic job as well. But as you start to withdraw your money, this is the whole magic of doing a financial plan with your financial planner. How long is that money going to last? Because as you start to withdraw, it is eventually going to go down to zero, right? And that's what we kind of want. Or we have so much saved in our RSP and our TFSA that we don't spend the money and then we get to give it on to the next generation. But conceptually, as we start, we save and then we pull out the money, right? And it just goes down over time. And we hope that money lasts long enough. But that is, for me, that's just like I've saved money and now I'm gonna spend it. That's kind of what's happening with the TFSA, which again, I have my TFSA and I love it and I have my RSPs, but mathematically, it's very interesting how the real estate works. So hopefully this will really like have the light bulb moment of why people do real estate. And if you can see that I can remove all the fears around it, mathematically, rentals are great. So in this case with the rental property, not you, your property management collects the money from your tenants. Income is more predictable month to month. Expenses are very predictable. And again, you kind of control the mortgage piece, and I go into the magic of money and how to refinance and all the good stuff in my program. But for today, it is very predictable. Like I know exactly where my rent's going to be, where my income's going to be month over month with my rentals, give or take a plumbing bill or something small, but very predictable. I know my houses very, very well. I mitigate risk with what I buy. So there is no surprises in my world of what I'm teaching people how to do and actually helping them. So what it feels like is predictable and it's less dependent on the markets, right? Like I don't really care if the house price goes up or down. It impacts my spreadsheet at the year end, but it doesn't actually impact my income at all. That has actually nothing to do with it. So it's more of a feel good if the house goes up, or maybe I can buy more or leverage more, but I don't really care if it's not like my direct income is associated with the value of the house. So this is the diagram. I spent some time trying to figure out how to show you guys. So rental income is produced by the asset, not by selling it. So again, we're not trying to like buy something and sell it to make 50 cents. That's a job, and that's not what we're doing. That's what flippers do or other strategies around real estate. This strategy is about buying the asset, having it grow over time, okay, just kind of like our TFSA or RSP would do. It's going to grow over time. The difference is the tenant is literally paying off that mortgage. So depending on how you want to, put in the money over time, it's all about buying the asset and then having the house grow in value, having the income or the mortgage get paid off literally by the tenant, and then along the way, you're going to start to see income. So if I talk about this as a retirement strategy, and we'll talk about, a 30-year mortgage, a lot of my clients are older, so we just fast track the strategy. It's just money and math in a spreadsheet. So depending on capital, we decide how big of the asset we want to make, how much money we want to get, and I figure out the work back to get to what is your budget. But bottom line is my monthly income, when I retire, if the house is wherever, say before it's paid off, it's 500 bucks. I'm going to show you some examples, but then it becomes 600. When a small little $250,000 house is paid for, your monthly income is about 1,500 bucks a month. So at 1,500 bucks a month, I'm now taking out that income, but guess what? My value of my house is not dropping. So where we showed in the TFSA, the money goes up and you start taking it out, your asset on your net worth statement starts to come down. But with real estate, my value continues to grow. So this is why I'm like never going to sell this real estate. And I've got some pretty awesome, I do monthly group coaching calls with my clients where I show like, well, what if you want to buy more? What if you want to go friggin' on a world cruise? I don't care. Like you could actually get at the equity in this house tax free, which isn't a Tracy concept. You can chat GPT, you can Google it, but it's certainly not one that people are talking about, I don't think, enough. And I think it's because people want to hear, oh, you make more money in the rental and you're going to buy more, which I agree with. I did that too. But when we retire, isn't it kind of neat to be able to pull some equity tax free and go shopping? I don't know. I like that idea. I don't have to sell the asset. I have people that own rentals coming to me and saying, "Oh, I want to get up my equity. I'm going to sell the house." I'm like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa. Why do you think you need to do that?" So it's looking at things a little bit differently. I don't want to get too much into that concept, but I love that concept. And I'm hoping I'm showing it here. You're going to keep your house growing. You're going to pull money out of it the whole way, but you're actually not reducing your asset. It's like it's why real estate is the magic sauce as long as you do it right. So that is absolutely a key to it. So hopefully this diagram helped to kind of visually show it versus just more examples. Now I'm going to talk about actual clients that I work with in just this past year. And again, you can check out my testimonials, you can check out my website, you can hopefully have a conversation with me about, I'm very transparent in what I'm doing and how I'm helping people, but I help people from literally across Canada. And the whole key here is we do not need to own real estate in our backyard. We are fortunate, we live in Canada, and there's different landlord rules across the country, different land transfer rules, there's different money rules, but we as a Canadian can buy anywhere in Canada. There's no limitations. So if you live in, like Sarah and Steve, who live in British Columbia, they can buy a rental property in Windsor. They can buy it anywhere. Calgary. I've helped people in Calgary this year, like all over the whole country. So what's nice is when Sarah and Steve came to me, they're living in BC, things are super expensive out there. The thought of being able to own a rental property just was like unattainable because it's so expensive. Then they saw me and they saw my program and they're like, okay, yeah, let's do that. So we did that and they signed up for my program, VIP rental property business coaching. It's all online. You guys can check it all out. Again, very transparent, my pricing, everything. And they are busy professionals. They had gotten some inheritance and they're like, they just wanted to make the money work. They didn't want to necessarily, like, they have their RSPs, they have their TFSAs, and they always wanted to own real estate, but thought it was actually way complicated. And they also didn't have time to take some big fancy course that they had to go figure it all out themselves. And I think I know that's where I'm doing things differently because I'm doing all the heavy lifting other than you buy the house. And this isn't joint venture world. I want you to own the real estate. That's a core value that I have around owning real estate. And so we were able to find them once I had done their whole planning and we got clarity on the strategy and we had the budget. We were able to find a triplex in Windsor for $575,000. And when they first started, they're like, what am I buying for, under $600,000? That isn't crappy. And we bought this place, and I'm big on, if people don't have, I try to not have a whole bunch of startup costs because I'd rather mortgage it, right? So in this case, it was a beautiful little triplex. We didn't even have to paint. Like it was really nice. Sometimes we might have to do some painting. Not we never do it, but we outsource it through our property management company. And the property is fully tenant and fully managed. And literally, my clients don't go to the house. I have the team. We know what to ask. We've been doing this a long time. And I feel really confident, I guess, in what I'm doing to help people. And the cool thing is, this actual property with 20% down, cash flows day one, 458 bucks a month. So this was a great purchase. I would say that I'm trying to get another one right now. It could take a few months, but the market's good. It's like the best it's been for buying real estate. Interest rates are reasonable. So math is mathing again. I think the only thing stopping people, but you guys are all here, so I'm really happy to see that and proud of you. But fear is, I think, the only thing that gets in people's way. And I also think we're just not trying, if you don't go at it trying to get rich quick, and you can buy good stuff, then we end up with good tenants and we end up with good properties. So that's what I want everyone to sleep really well at night with their rental. And I'll tell you, Sarah and Steve, they are like over the moon happy with their triplex that we were able to get and fully turnkey the whole thing for them. And I even do first year taxes with them. So it's very hands-on. So that's an example of a little bit more of a budget. Now I've got clients who are buying multifamily. So don't think, not to have a conversation if you've got big money or little money. kind of in between. It's all about the budget and where you're at. And I never let people get into my second phase, like fully like turnkey in a rental, unless we know you have the money. So I am very careful that people don't over leverage. I'll be very honest with you. What I don't want to have happen is you buy a rental property and in 2 years you have to sell that rental property. You will lose money if you have to do that. This is long-term investing. It's a beautiful asset. It's beautiful diversification. And I've got a system where it's not stressful. Now, Tammy, you may have seen her. She did a video for me. If you've watched another masterclass, she's lovely. We're actually working on our second rental property. We might look at a multifamily for her this time around, but she lives in Toronto and we were able to purchase her a cute little single detached rental property. So, why I like little houses, I go into that in my program, but there's like lots of psychology around buying good real estate. And good real estate meaning we equals good tenants that aren't going to cause us problems. So I like simple long-term rentals. Like I said, properties, usually I would live in them. They're cute. And sometimes it doesn't have to be overly sexy, right? Like, yes, it's sexy to buy a 12 unit, a building with joint venture partners, but you are not in control of that. And I'm happy to have that conversation. Lots of people like that conversation. I'm really pro you owning stuff yourself. So let's do what you can do within your control because you're going to own this place for the next 30 years and pass it along to either your kids or nieces or nephews or eventually just sell it and spend the money, which is fine too. So we focused really on her long-term numbers and we didn't want to over leverage. We were definitely, getting her money to work because she certainly couldn't afford a rental property in Toronto. And she likely would have ended up maybe going down a condo route, which, I've never liked condos. So now that the condo market's so upside down, it's like, excellent. I was right. But I know I'm right because I don't want condo fees, right? Like I can buy this same house for less money than a condo, and I just don't have that extra expense. So just pure math logic always has me liking a little simple house. Or a simple duplex or a simple triplex or even a simple fourplex or a sixplex. Like the mathing works with less overhead. We don't want capital surprises, I guess is really a huge key to this. And I'm just checking my time. Okay, 15 minutes. I better talk faster. We bought this house for $251,000 and day one we were over $200 of cash flow. So it is possible. We have to be patient. You need to know where to buy, but that's where really I'm coming in to make it easy for the few people that I do help each year. So how it feels is, yes, my TFSA is lovely, but I'm really setting it based on the stock market, which has been lovely this last, 8 years, but it can also tank. I'm old enough that I've seen it go up and down. So it's fine. My rental property feels solid, right? It's real estate. We're not, I also feel good. I feel like I'm a good landlord because I pay the bills. I have cute houses, so like they rent fast because there's not a lot. Most investors are buying kind of crappy properties. I like to buy good stuff. So tenants like our properties. They're taking care of them. We're really, I'm not knock on wood about. We really don't have the issues. And I think it's because of how I'm going at it. And my rentals feel really good. Like my ego is very happy I have real estate in Canada. I own personally in Kitchener, in Windsor, in Moncton. My partner and I, between us, we have 12 rentals. So again, we're not like hundreds and hundreds of doors, but I'll tell you, my rental portfolio is does today and it will in the future outperform my RSPs. I love having the conversation with my advisors because when they actually process the rental properties, it is pretty hard to outperform them. But anyways, even if they were the same, I still just like being diversified. I like having rentals. I feel like I'm doing a good thing for, retired Canadians and people that just need a good rental property with a good landlord who, will fix things when things need to be fixed. So it's predictable. And I think when I'm 70, it's like it's such a beautiful problem to have because the asset keeps growing and my income just keeps going up because rents will keep going up. So how important, I guess, is it for you to be diversified, right? Sometimes my clients do are just like, I just want to invest in real estate. And I'm like, great, let's just do that. Sometimes we want diversification. I personally want my clients to be diversified, but I really love everyone to own at least something in real estate if they want to and not be afraid of it. So it's flexible. Do you want structure? Are you focused on growing money or replacing income? And how involved do you want to be? So this actually masterclass could almost feel like the most grueling learning that you're going to do compared to the way I actually take the reins client, and guidance matters. So, like I mentioned earlier, I've done a lot of real estate investment courses myself and coaching, spent a lot of money. And what I found in those programs is people don't execute, right? They're left on their own to figure it out, which, as busy professionals, we don't have time to do that. I was fortunate enough, and you'll learn more about my uncle, but I'm really lucky that I had a mentor early on in my life to say, just buy real estate. And I did that, and I'm so grateful. But I'm also so grateful. I almost would have gotten out of it probably if I didn't fall into the whole property management concept that I can, as a small investor, hire real companies and just learn how to manage them. So guidance matters, and I'm here to hold your hand. And this is how I help my clients design their reality. So, yes, real estate's a tool, investing's a tool, but I'm also going to teach you about lifestyle and balance and like not overcomplicating things. We want to be able to delegate. We want to run a good business. We want to have a nice life. We don't want to be stressed out. I feel like everyone that comes to me, that's at the end of the day, we're all trying to live a calm and peaceful life today and certainly into retirement. So it's not about, taking on the world and creating a bunch of stress in your life. It's about owning, having your TFSAs and your RSPs, and then maybe owning a simple rental property that's just all working kind of in the background and feels really, really good. So I do a lot of that. I do all of that, spreadsheeting, designing, clarity planning in depth when you become a client, if you ever become a client. But what I would want us to look at together is, what money do you have? What income do you want? What's the work back schedule? And everybody's different. That's why I can't really answer it like on a live call like this or even in, a short 45-minute call because I have to get into the weeds of your life to really understand should you be doing it? Do you have the money? What do you want to buy? And I also like to educate, like, well, what if you bought a triplex? What if you bought a sixplex? What if you bought a single? What if you like whatever it is? We can just math until we feel really good about what it is we're actually going to buy. And it's obviously about your comfort level and risk, and how involved you want to be day to day. And I have a commitment to my clients. You are going to spend 1 hour a year on your rental property. It's like a game for me when it comes to taxi. I'm so operationally minded. My system, I was a COO. I mean, today I sent out an email without a link working. I was very stressed about that. But typically, I'm very good at operations and systems and automation, and I run my rentals like that, and that's what I teach people. So everything's really done for you, and it should take you less than an hour. Should take you 30 minutes to prep your taxes, and the rest of the year is maybe a couple of emails. That's it. You literally are not going to take a tenant phone call. You literally are not going to pick up a hammer. You're not going to have to call and figure out who's going to paint your house. Like zero zippity doo-dah. So if you want this to feel as passive as going to your financial advisor once a year, that is my magical little world of how I'm doing this real estate. And I can prove it to you when we get deeper into it, but it's pretty awesome. So we remove the guesswork. We don't have overwhelm, and we just take our time to make sure it fits into your budget and your life. And if it's not the right thing to do in phase one, I will tell you that it'll become very clear in the mathing if you should or if you should not do a rental property. And once we get through kind of phase one, I usually know where people are at. I do. I get to know you very well. So we're making really good decisions. And in real life, a lot of my clients already have some money. So they've either, they've been through a divorce, they got some money, they want to invest. They've always wanted to own a rental, but are just afraid. They've got some they're like, oh, okay, my TFSA is doing this. I'll take 50 grand of it and let's invest it. Or they're going to leverage your equity in your home, which is, kind of the typical way that if you're young enough is so smart to do. And that's just using leverage, which is really a good idea when you're young enough. It's just all about the math and timing. So we don't want to buy stuff that's difficult. I've been doing this a long time for myself. I've been doing it a long time now for my clients, and I'm very patient. And professional management is in place from day one. So it's very VIP. And that's how we have predictable real estate. So if you like help thinking this through, if you'd like some help, you don't need to decide today. This isn't about buying a rental property tomorrow. It's a conversation to understand your options. Now, a few of you have already done the pre-call with me, which was great, and I offered that for free. But now today is the master class, and I always charge $47 because, as you can imagine, I want people to show up. It's actually just about time management and making sure that the session's really valuable. You are going to get 45 minutes, and we're going to talk about, as much as I can in 45 minutes, at least at a high level. Tell me where your money's at. Tell me your little story. We'll get to know each other, and I'm going to be at least able to tell you if I can help you at all, if doing a full dive into your money and your life and doing the learning about real estate makes even sense for you, then we can talk about that. Some of my clients, they get on this call and they're like, Trace, I've been watching you. I should have done it 2 years ago. I just want to buy a rental. Okay, let's not overcomplicate it. We can jump right into the full program. So usually in the 45 minutes, I figure out, where people are at. I'm just going to grab the link right now if you would like to book the $47 strategy call. Let me just grab the link. Usually have my assistant here, but she's not here today. She's out skiing. Um, so I'll put it here, message everyone, paste. So there we go. Okay. And I also will say, if you book the $47 call, I really just want you to show up. If you show up and you're like, Tracy, this was a total waste of time and I didn't learn anything and you didn't help me at all, I always say, to me, it's a bottle of wine. So I can always give you your money back. But the point is to pay it so you show up. That is the key to charging the $47. If you move forward with any of my programs, I'll also credit this towards any of my programs. But it's a valuable 45 minutes. We get to know each other. And hopefully, I can get to know you a bit better. I'm going to be doing some Q&A here at the end. So you will leave the 45 minutes. And for a few of you, you talked to me this week, maybe you can profess in the chat that it was a good chat. And we're going to follow up after you've done the masterclass because I knew this was happening. And I just, I'm not a pushy salesperson. The right people find me. And if you want my help, I'm here. I'm also not here to convince you to buy rental properties. I typically find people that want or have always wanted to, and then I just help them do it. That's the bigger point. Like I said, I only help 30 people a year. So I always can find a lot of people say, oh, I can't believe I found you on the internet. So I keep doing the internet thing because I am finding amazing, beautiful clients to work with from across the whole country. So I'm not going to stop doing this. But I hopefully you found me here today, and maybe I'm really talking to you about what you'd love to do as far as real estate. And I encourage you to, no, not really. I wouldn't say there is a prerequisite because my program, I can get you on a path. So no, don't feel because you don't know you want to buy a rental or you don't have enough money. You can't book a call. Like you can book a call. We can have a conversation about life and money. I mean, I'm a real nice person. So, um, and yeah, anyways, you can book the call. I'll give you a plan, I guess, to where you're going. And my website, I'm just going to put it here, designyourreality.ca is my website. Um, yeah, so I'd love everyone to book a call that's here today. That would be awesome. I've got my calendar open this weekend. So yeah, so you can book it even for the weekend. It's pretty open. I really opened it up so I can talk to as many people as I can. after this call. The replay will go out as well. And usually a lot of people have been messaging, they're at work. I decided to do this at noon hour Eastern Standard. I was doing Monday nights, but then people are busy. So I'm always trying to figure out the right timing. But you will all receive the replay. And there really is no pressure to set up the call. It's more of a phase one opportunity for us to get to know each other and see if the program would be good for you, like if you'd like to do it. So some questions that are commonly asked: how much capital do I need to get started? So, we touched on a little bit. I think, 50,000 is like the smallest house. I think you can buy cheaper houses, but then I think you're getting into that space that's not probably going to be a good experience. So I know I can buy houses still in that 250, 270, 290 is like beautiful. And you also need closing costs, like there's cash flow requirements. So usually for people that are working with me, they have the money or they have a house and maybe it's paid off and they're like, yeah, I can leverage this and we can buy some real estate. So, but you need to have 20% down to be able to buy a rental property, whether that comes from equity in your home or savings. But that is not a prerequisite for setting up a call with me. My phase one is really for everybody. I think every 30-year-old should do the first part of my program, which is learning, right? And planning and understanding money, net worth, budget, like all the things that are gross that most people don't love to do. I love to do it. Like I love spreadsheeting. I love helping people understand money and loving their money, right? Stop throwing away on vodka and sodas at crappy bars. Buy a rental property. Like it's amazing to me, and I'm 51 years old. So I'm really trying to help everyone love money and just be better at it, not be afraid, and enjoy their life, design their reality. So hopefully that's first question number one. Do I need to manage tenants? Absolutely not. So we are one. Okay, so like if you want to manage tenants, then I will not take you on as a client because that's not the point. The point is to enjoy your life. And there's so many other reasons to not manage tenants yourself that I get into in my program. And yeah, my program is pretty awesome. There's like a full course, you get monthly group coaching, and it's all VIP one-on-one. So that's why I have a limited number of clients. So hopefully that answers that, but we're not going to manage our own tenants, for sure not. And what if I already have a TFSA that does that? Yes, of course. You can use your TFSA. Again, we would dig into your whole money picture and come up with a strategy. Again, this is why I spend a lot of time with my clients doing the mathing because I wouldn't feel good about someone just saying, okay, I've got 100 grand, Trace. Can I just hire you to help me turnkey the rental? And then I find out that they maybe had other money or different money, or they could have done something even smarter with their money. Like I like to know the weeds of what my clients are doing. So yeah, depends on where the money is. But if you already have a TFSA, definitely that's great. But I'm not necessarily going to be totally encouraging you to withdraw all your TFSA money to buy a rental. That's not really, I kind of like people to have both. Um, and is this realistic if I'm busy or close to retirement? So this is usually the biggest one. I do have a lot of women coming to me in their 50s, even early 60s, that are like, I wish I would have done this, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, 20 years ago. And the difference is now they have money. So what we usually will do is look at the strategy. So maybe it's a smaller house, but we put more money down to speed up the income strategy. Maybe they've got kids and they just want to leave a legacy. So depending on your scenario, it's like whatever it is. Like there's never, I don't think, a bad time to invest actually. It's just kind of where your money situation is at, and that's where we got to get into the weeds to understand it. But if that's why I set up the the strategy. The first call is kind of the first spot, and then I can lead you where to go from there. And I'm very honest and upfront about, like I said, not over leveraging. And what happens on the clarity call? So basically on the call, I'm going to get to know you. You're going to get to know me a little bit more. Really, no question can go kind of not asked. It's a private call with you and me. So we're basically going to look at your current capital at a high level. What's your timeline? How old you are? If you have kids? What are your income goals around retirement? And again, like I said, I have sort of a vast number of clients in different scenarios, and then I walk you through the options. So in some cases, It might be you might be just ready to go, and you've heard, the other maybe you have or maybe you haven't, but literally once I explain my program, you might be like, yeah, let's just do this. And a lot of my clients just do that. And they're like, okay, let's go buy a rental. Like, don't overcomplicate it. Fantastic. Let's get to work. And we set up our first 2 hours and you get my design box and we start to math the mathing and get to a budget and get your financing approved. And then once that's done, we go buy a rental and we do your taxes and we do your property management and do all the things. So during that initial call, though, it's enough information for me to say, yes, should you move ahead to phase one, or are you a great candidate to do the full program and let's go buy a rental? So that call is going to give you some direction. And yeah, it's usually a very good little personal call about your situation. And it's on Zoom, just so everyone knows. Once you book the call, you're going to get a video. And I realized I say, and on the call, we're going to do, but it's actually a Zoom call. Just to be clear, it is face to face. I like to meet people, get to know them, and see their faces. So, not that I don't mind the phone call, but it's not the same because I can't open up a spreadsheet and I can't, maybe explain something about the program if you're wanting to learn more about that. Um, and that is that. So I am hoping I get to help you guys design your realities, own real estate, enjoy life, travel, and get to know you all just a little bit better. So I'm looking forward to it. A bunch of you have signed up for calls, so I look forward to seeing everyone. I'll keep my energy high, hydrate, so I give you guys all my full energy. And I hope you guys all have a most amazing day, and I will talk to you all soon. Oh, and for anyone watching the replay, I've put the link to book the strategy call in the video below, just to make sure that I say that. All right, everyone have an amazing day, and thank you for joining the session today.